Hello everyone, welcome to the very first video for Michael Up's fanfic channel. So, I am very excited right now to read the first story for the MLFF channel, my second channel. So the first fanfic that I will be doing is called The Call of the Deep. It's by a person from the writer of Space Between. Right, remember that? It will probably from next. It will be there later on this year, so might as well enjoy that. But probably later on. Okay. Anyways, let's get look at the what are the ratings because this rating here is explicit. Okay. All right. The fandom is My Hero Academia, right? The relationships is obviously enough Bakugo and Midoriya. And there are some additional tags here, and then there's sirens, Lovecraftian monsters, okay, horror, BAMF, it's called badass, mother effer, cannibalism, okay, yeah, it's a stranger, tragic romance. The point of view is in Midoriya, so okay. Dorizaku's not a hero, pretend that, then he's not here as well. There's blood and violence involved. There are no in the AU version of this story. There's no quirks. Okay, no one for all, no explosion, none of that. It says Days into Madness, gore, bittersweet, dark fantasy, siren, Bagokatsuki. Never knew the word siren, not the siren sound. Siren is something different. Okay, so yeah, well, I'm gonna read just a very short summary. This is a very short one. Okay. Midoriya Asoku dies at a young age of 5. Seems, however, that Deep has other plans for him. A dark romance. Okay, there's going to be a violence, there's going to be some sexual stuff, possibly, or I don't know, but it'll be there. But it's a very short one. It's about 5,000 words, so it's not that long. So, alright, hope you enjoy reading this story. It's called. So, alright, let's get started. The Call of the Deep by Kane_VR. Midori Izuku dies at the young age of 5. His surprise cry arrives at the moment too late as he topples over the edge of his father's weathered fishing boat. Ice cold water floods his lungs instantly. Izuku knows how to swim, but the frigid plan in his chest sends him into a panic. He gaps, chokes, and gaps again. Within seconds, he is drowning. Izuku flails helplessly beneath the water. The murky depths of Devil's Cove throb inside of his chest like a dull pulse. He twists and turns and loses sight of the surface entirely. The burn in his lungs intensifies. He clutches his chest desperately. The seawater throbs inside him, a steady drum beat signaling his impending demise. It consumes him, becomes one with him. Izuku panics ebbs. His body glows limp. An image of an ancient underwater fortress forms in his mind, cracked and riddled with decay. He is ready to return to it. Off in the depths, a shadow begins to form. Izuku watches it sluggishly as it takes on a distinctive shape. By the time that he is able to make out details, the creature's face is already inches from his own. The smallest face staring back at him is humanoid. 2 round eyes, black as night, sit within the squarish head. Slitted pupils glow a fiery red that cuts through the murky water. 2 long vertical slits sit on either side of a gently curved protrusion. At the center of the creature's face, a wide mouth extends horizontally, connecting to a thick band of tissue that runs along its cheekbones. Its skin is muffled with shades of abalone, and charcoal. From somewhere behind the creature, Izuku glimpses a fish-like tail, long and barbed. The creature tilts its head in a way that might have indicated childlike curiosity. It blinks with translucent eyelids. Its ashen blonde hair twists with a life of its own. The creature's nostrils slits flare, exposing dark pink filaments. It produces two whistle-like tones, a high note followed by a low one. The sound pierces Isaac's skull. He dimly recognizes that the creature is attempting to communicate. He opens his mouth and tries to replicate the sound. A single air bubble escapes him, the last of his oxygen reserves. His vision grows dark. Distantly, Isaac feels a series of sharp pains pierce his side. He vaguely recognizes that his body is in motion. Soon after, a pair of strong hands grab him and pull him out of the water. "The hell's the matter with you, boy?" Isaac's father shouts to him. "I told you, didn't I? Stay out of the water. It'll do strange things to a man." Isaac's father whacks him on the back until he begins to vomit seawater. He can still feel sea throbbing inside his chest. As Isaac empties his stomach over the side of the boat, he fruitlessly scans the water of the creature that he'd seen, filled with an unbearable sense of loss. He tries to leap overboard. His father grabs him by the back of the shirt and throws him down onto the deck. Izuku laughs hysterically as he shivers against hard deck. He rambles incoherently about the angel in the water who saved him. His father dismisses him until he notices blood pooling around his son's body. When his father lifts his shirt, he cries out in disbelief. Twin sets of puncture wounds forming the shape of ripping claws ooze blood down. When Izuku sees them, he weeps with joy. Midori Izuku is a strange boy, the villagers whisper. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where he gone off. Some claim that he always been strange, while others say that his oddities had grown into him with age. Ever since his father had mysteriously vanished, the boy had lived in a rickety cabin near the tip of the cove alone. The villagers had tried to intervene at first, but the boy had refused assistance. Midori Izuku keeps to himself. The fishermen sometimes see him sitting in his father's fishing boat, or at the farthest outcrop, staring wistfully out to sea. When they return with their daily haul, he is often still there, scribbling something or other down in his notebook. The boy takes a keen interest in the sirens that have long plagued their sparsely populated fishing village. He smiles with a strange, knowing expression whenever news of the monsters reaches him. When the fisherman catches Isaac whistling two tones, a high one followed by a low one, out at sea late one night, the villagers begin to avoid him. It's not normal, they say. It's like he's calling to something. They usher their children inside and lock their doors when he strolls into town to purchase food or fishing supplies. Izuku observes the townsfolk with detached amusement. He's always preferred to be alone. It means they can stay up late, watching the moon rise and fall over the sea. He can fill his sketchbook with drawing after drawing of the face that he'd seen years ago. Desperate to retain the memory, he can sit at the furthest outcrop and whistle those notes into the night air, watching the sea breathe. Izuku brushes his fingers over his old scars. The sea gurgles inside of his chest. His angel will return to him one day. He's sure of it. The village breathes a collective sigh of relief when Izuku joins the navy. Good riddance, they say. With any luck, he'll be swept out to sea and no one will ever hear from him again. Izuku trembles with excitement the first time that he steps onto a military vessel. He is surrounded by men from other villages and nearby cities. Many of them wave to mothers and lovers as the ship departs from the dock. Izuku has no one to wave to, but he smiles nonetheless. The city folk take to him more easily than the villagers. He quickly learns they are far less superstitious, although they are taken aback by his too wide smile and morbid fascinations at first. Izuku was seasick for the first few days, but he quickly adjusts. The air of the open sea reeks of familiarity. He stares at the water for hours. Even now it calls to him, filling him with an urge to throw himself overboard. Wait, he tells himself. Be patient. It isn't until his fifth expedition that his patience pays off. It begins as a low hum. The sound is so muted that many of the sailors don't notice it. The captain of the ship, however, is more experienced. He releases a series of colorful expletives and dashes inside the bridge. Sir? Azuka asks, where the captain re-emerges as a small metal container. The captain pops the lid off and rolls a pea-sized amount of a smooth yellow substance between his fingers, then hands the container to Azuka. Beeswax, he says simply. Plug yours, boy. Make sure that all the men do the same. Storm's brewing. Azuka frowns. I don't understand. The captain curses. Sirens, boy. He snaps. Remember your training and don't lose your head. He stalks up, barking orders at every man he passes. Azuka's heart leaps to his throat. He quickly stuffs the smooth substance to his ears, nearly dropping the container in his excitement. He stares at the sea. Its calm surface has already begun to churn. The low hum was steadily turning to a groan that emanated from beneath the waves. It sounded like a yawn of a giant aquatic beast. He passes the container amongst the sailors, but reconsiders his actions halfway through. He looks at the container. He understands what it's said for and what it might mean for the sirens. He distributes the beeswax to a few more sailors then, when no one's looking, tosses it overboard. In less than an hour, the storm grows from a light ripple into crashing waves as tall as houses. They descend into the hull of the ship, threatening to capsize it. The sailors slip and slide on the deck as water douses them from all sides. Izuku holds onto the rails for purchase as the salt spray stings his face and eyes. Worse than the storm, though, is the song. 1,000 ancient voices from the sea, cacophonous and terrible. Izuku can feel the lethal melodies seep into his bones and tear apart his joints. A chant like and hypnotizing in nature. It sounds like nothing in this world. Some of the men fall to the ground screaming while others throw themselves into the sea. The captain storms over to Izuku. I told you to make sure that everyone plugs their ears, he shouts, the words barely audible over the raucous storm and monstrous song. I'm sorry, sir, Izuku shouts back. He cannot wipe the excited grin off his face. The waves knocked it out of my hands. The captain's expression changes from one of anger to dread. Sensing his impending doom, he says his jaw turns away from Izuku and rallies the sailors who aren't incapacitated. They ready themselves with harpoons and spears. Moments later, the sirens attack. The sailor screams. Izuku turns and catches a man being pulled into the water by a jagged claw. Seconds later, the man next to him fires his harpoon. A horrific shriek makes all the sailors reel. A siren lunges up from the water, the tendons along his cheeks pulled taut as his jaw opens impossibly wide. The creature sinks its rows of dagger-like teeth into the man's neck, shredding it in a matter of seconds. The man collapses onto the deck, lifeless. The blood that gushes from his neck is quickly washed away by the endless torrent of water. Izuku steps away from the rails as the sirens bombard the ship from all sides. They haul themselves up with their long claws and drag their hulking bodies onto the deck. Their torsos weren't unlike those of adult humans, but their tails were gigantic, easily 5 or 6 times the length of their upper bodies, thick, sturdy, and barbed, a weapon on their own right. The sailors stab at the creature's hands and faces, but for many, it's already too late. The scene quickly descends into chaos. Izuku watches the siren knock 3 men over with a single flick of its tail. It descends upon the closest sailor and it begins to feed while the man is still alive and screaming. It's beautiful. He watches enraptured as sailor after sailor is slaughtered. His bloodlust is only subdued when his siren turns towards him. He raises his harpoon, but the creature easily knocks it out of his hands. He cries out as his wrist is wrenched painfully. The siren coils its tail beneath itself. Izuku turns to flee, barely making it 2 steps before a huge claw swipes across his back. It cuts deep, tearing his flesh from the inside out. He falls to the ground, screaming, as hot blood spills down his back. He forces himself to roll over. He searches the siren's face and is hit with crushing disappointment. It's not him. No, Izuku groans. It's not time yet. I had to find... He puckers his lips and whistles the 2 notes he practiced most of his life. The siren looming over him pauses. It closes its mouth and stares at him, seemingly confused. After a moment, it closes in again, preparing to deliver the finishing blow. That is, until it's knocked aside. The siren shrieks angrily and gnashes teeth. The second siren that comes between him hisses and produces a long gurgling sound. The former gnashes its teeth again, but backs off. Izuku watches the two creatures transfixed. The second siren turns to him. His breath is stolen from his mouth. It's his angel. He isn't entirely sure how he knows this, but he's certain that it's him. He looks different than how Izuku remembers him. His face is more defined, his eyes have narrowed. His torso is muscular and sturdy, the body of an adult man. Izuku can't help but find him handsome. He vaguely wonders what his angel thinks of him. The creature's nostril slits flare. He whistles two familiar notes to him. The sound is more shrill above the water, but Izuku easily recognizes it. He returns the whistle and smiles. The siren slowly winds his way towards him. Izuku makes no attempt to flee. The creature pauses when its face is inches from his own, not unlike all those years ago. It's been so long. I found you, Izuku whispers. His mouth trembles and a single tear slips down his cheek. The creature's dark eyes search his face. The moment is interrupted, however, when a nearby siren shrieks and collapses. The sailors cheer. His angel springs into action. He winds his way towards the ship's rails and peers over the edge, then looks back at Izuku. Izuku staggers to his feet. He limps toward the siren, his back in agony. When he reaches the rails, he sees what his angel is looking at. A lifeboat dangles over the side of the ship, strong and secure with thick rope. Before he can react, his siren slams to him, sending him overboard. He lands playfully in the lifeboat. Izuku looks up just in time to see the captain of the ship get dragged overboard and into the sea. The ship is lost. Izuku looks at the raging storm that surrounds him. There is no way that he'll survive in a small lifeboat. Wait! He cries out as Angel brandishes his wicked claws. The siren cuts the lifeboat from the ship with a single swipe, sending him plummeting into the sea below. His head bounces off the side of the lifeboat when it hits the water with a jolt, knocking him unconscious. When Izuku awakens, the sea is calm. He stares blearily out at the open water, dehydrated and delirious. There is no visible land in any direction. He begins to panic but stops when he realizes that the light was traveling against the current. It's heading in a particular direction. He looks over the edge of the vessel but only sees opaque water. Gratitude wells up inside Zoku. Thank you, he whispers before it curls to a ball and passes out again. He doesn't wake up until the lifeboat washes up against the shore, and by then, his angel is long gone. When Izuku returns to his village as the sole survivor of a siren attack, people whisper. His return is almost unwelcome. The villagers slam their doors shut when he limps through the streets and hang tokens on their properties to ward off evil. They gossip. They claim that he had called the sirens to the ship. He called them to the Devil's Cove as well. Izuku never fully recovers from his injury. His flesh is marred with ugly scars. He walks with an odd gait that distances him further from the superstitious villagers. When he is discharged from the navy, he grows more reclusive, preferring to stay indoors. He only goes into town when absolutely necessary. He doesn't like the looks that the villagers cast his way, their eyes brimming with darkness and ill intent. Humans are so small-minded, he thinks. He doesn't allow the villagers to invade his thoughts too often, though. No, Izuku has other interests that are far more worthy of his time. Izuku trips over a rock as he makes his way over to the farthest outcrop along the cove. A small cave is nestled into the far side that is difficult to see at night. It is partially flooded and the submerged rocks are thick with algae. The stench of rot lingers in it. He enters the cave and sits on the edge near the entrance. The sea drops off into its unfathomable depths. Directly below his feet, he moves his shoes and rolls up his trouser legs, plunging his feet into the water. Ah, relief. Izuku looks out at the sea and whistles two notes. Would he come tonight? It was difficult to tell. He didn't mind, though. He long since grown accustomed to waiting. He waits for a few minutes before he whistles again. Somewhere across the water, he hears it, a returning call. A ripple appears on the surface of the sea. His angel emerges from the depths, spraying Aizuku with icy water as he breaks up the surface. Bright red pupils flicker over Aizuku's face, slightly parted lips reveal the tip of wicked teeth. Aizuku smiles. "Hello, darling," he says. His angel is similar yet different to himself. The siren's skin takes on a greyish-gray hue above the surface of the water. Aizuku revels in its rubbery texture and its coolness beneath his fingertips. He scoops some water up from the sea in cup with hands and drizzles it across the creature's torso. The silence produces a low whistling sound that Aizuku decides its contentment. His angel's skin dries rapidly. It can last 2, maybe 3 minutes above the water before it begins to crack. Sometimes he returns after retreating into the sea. Other times it doesn't. Tonight, he stays. Aizuku studies the siren. Glistening black scales cover him from tail to pelvis. His tail is thick, his barbed fins crooked and tinged with a hint of crimson. They cannot understand each other, but that doesn't stop Aizuku from attempting to communicate. He talks to his angel about everything. He confides every thought, fear, and secret desire within himself. The siren remains silent. His eyes possess an intelligence that makes Aizuku desperately wish that he could somehow bridge the gap. His angel occasionally talks as well. His language is primarily relayed through a series of whistles, hisses, and gurgles, not unlike his song. The sounds rattle around inside of Zeku's skull painfully, but he appreciates it nonetheless. The relationship is difficult. His angel is wary of his hands. He hisses warnings, lashes out, and bares his teeth, but he is quick to learn. Aizuku's hands are unlike his own. They have no claws that cut and maim. In time, the siren becomes accustomed to his touch and eventually seems to welcome it in his own way. Aizuku tenderly strokes the tendons that run alongside the creature's cheeks. A tendril of ashen hair curls towards Aizuku and brushes against his fingertips. It's the only soft touch his angel is capable of. His entire body is a weapon. Aizuku smiles. "You're perfect," he says adoringly. He gazes into his angel's eyes. He could remain next to him forever. The siren gurgles and retreats from him. Aizuku can see the fine cracks forming along the surface of his skin. He looks at the water, and the idea forms in his mind. "Take me to the sea," he says. He points at the water. The creature stares at him. When Aizuku slides off the ledge and into the sea, he seems to understand. Even at their most delicate, his angel's claws dig into him, leaving scratches deep enough to draw blood. It's a necessary discomfort that Aizuku welcomes. He takes a deep breath before his angel plunges beneath the surface of the water. He doesn't last long beneath the waves. He's shivering within seconds, and his lungs scream for air soon after. When his angel breaks the surface, he gulps in the cold night air. His fingers and toes are numb, and he can barely see the outcrop. His angel grips his waist firmly. The moonlight shines down on them, and Aizuku is struck by his unnatural beauty. They gaze into each other's eyes. Aizuku parts his lips and leans in, but the siren pulls away, opening his mouth far enough to reveal the points of his wicked teeth. A warning. "It's okay," Aizuku says, relenting. He wraps his arms around his angel's neck and strokes his hair. The siren whistles. He drags a single clawed finger down Aizuku's cheek. A stinging sensation is followed by a thin trickle of blood. Aizuku's shivering grows more pronounced. He draws himself closer to his angel. He thinks about how wonderful it would be to die in the arms of his beloved. "I love you," he whispers. The siren blinks and stares at him silently. Aizuku is returning to his father's cabin when he hears heavy footsteps. A fisherman is grunting and stomping his way up the rocky shore. His boat is anchored nearby as he is dragging a large object. Aizuku recognizes him as one of the locals from the village. What do you have? He asks as he approaches the fisherman. The fisherman sorrows. Christ, boy, he says. You scare me halfway out of my skin. You shouldn't be out so late. The townspeople are getting real spooked. Still coming and going. What do you have? Asuka repeats. He takes another step closer. His blood runs cold. The fisherman laughs good-naturedly. Nearly got me out there. This one did. He nudges the carcass with his boots. Don't much care for how close they've been getting to shore lately. They've been bolder than usual. The fisherman kicks the corpse, rolling it onto his back. Asuka can make out a gaping jaw, unseeing eyes, and cracking skin. A broken harpoon is lodged between the exposed brass. He's reeling when he sees the siren's face, but his relief is quickly replaced by anger. You did this, he says to the fisherman. The fisherman snorts. Suppose got caught up in my fishing nets, he replies. Was real pissed off too. Needless to say, I'm lucky to be alive. He stares at the dead siren. Creepy looking things, if you ask me. Well, since I lost my catch fighting it off, I figured I'd drag it back down. He grins. Have a good old-fashioned fish fry? You know, I still can't pry his eyes away from the opposing siren. She's beautiful. Can't help but wonder who she was taken from. The sea gurgles inside of him. The rage that fastens inside of him feels ancient. His fury is incomprehensible. The fisherman's smile fades. You alright, boy? He asks. He takes a step back. Don't tell me you gone and eaten something rotten. A thin trickle of murky fluid spills over Azago's lips. A strange bubbling sensation fills his innards, and his entire body begins to shake. He is consumed with hatred for the fisherman. He moans wetly, his eyes rolling back into his head. He blacks out. When Azago regains consciousness, everything is red. He's sitting on top of what used to be the fisherman. The broken harpoon that had been lodged in the siren's chest row protrudes from his right eye socket. Everything below his head is a sea of gore. Azago raises his hands to his face. They cover with blood, thick and already congealing around his fingernails. He looks at the fisherman. He isn't moving. He begins to laugh. He starts as a soft chuckle and grows in intensity until he's howling with laughter. Tears form in his eyes. It's a fitting ending, after all. He stares at the corpse hungrily. The sea moves inside him. He leans in closer, inhaling the pungent stench of death. It excites him. He bears down on the corpse without hesitation, sinking his teeth into its supple flesh. Once he's had his fill, Asago drags what's left of the body down the shore. He plunges into the sea and bears the fisherman out as far as he can before his limbs start to seize up from the cold. Hobbling back up the shore, he approaches the body of a female siren. He stares at the siren for a long moment. He gently strokes the side of her crumbling face as he leans in and kisses her forehead. I'm sorry, he whispers into her hair before he turns her to the sea as well. Azuka sees them coming through the cracked window of his cabin. Pinpricks of orange lights dot the shoreline. They flicker in and out of view, growing larger and more numerous. Eventually, he is able to make out individual villagers wielding torches, axes, and pitchforks. He sighs heavily. He sets the notebook aside and goes out to meet them. The villagers grind to a halt when they find Azuka waiting for them. Some of them curse while others yelp. The torches cast long shadows on their faces, and they look angry and frightened. They are small. Can I help you? Azuka asks. He places a false smile on his face. We know it was you. The man waves his pitchfork threateningly. Don't try to deny it. It was you who killed Ayato. Woman near the front of the group wails and clutches her breast. His body washed up on shore this morning, another chimes in. Bites all over and full of stab wounds. Them sirens, they rip and tear with claws and teeth. Ain't no siren who's done that to him. Oh? Azuka looks at his nails, disinterested. And what makes you think that it was me? We ain't fools, boy. A woman spits at the ground near his feet. You've been run since the day you was born. A blight on the village. You have a real evil way about you. Wouldn't be surprised if you killed your own father. We're done with you and your cursed ways. The villagers cheer and raise their torches. Azuko curls his lip in disdain. Pathetic, he sneers. Go away before I curse you where you stand. We'll split you into before the words leave your lips. The man holding the pitchfork shouts. He charges forward, the rest of the villagers in hot pursuit. Aizoku balls. There aren't many places for him to go. He dashes to the outcrop and stops near the entrance of the cave. Their cave. Looks back at his father's cabin. Flames lick the night sky. He looks out to sea. The water is calm tonight. The villagers is approaching. Aizoku climbs onto the ledge and inside the entrance. Wait, he shouts. He isn't going to survive this. Not unless. He puckers his lips and whistles a high note followed by a low one. Villagers freeze, momentarily spoked. Their eyes dart back and forth between Aizoku and the sea. Nothing happens. The man with the pitchfork sneers. Ain't no one or nothing coming to save you, he says. He points his fish directly at Aizoku's chest, steps into the ledge and is bitten cleanly in half by the siren that explodes out of the waters. The villagers scream in horror as the two halves of the man collapse into the sea and disappear from the sight, leaving a trail of blood and viscera. Darling! Azuka exclaims, overjoyed. You monster! A woman shrieks and points a trembling finger. You're one of them, aren't you? You've been one of them all along. The idea brings Azuka no small amount of pleasure. One of them? A siren? Legs slip slowly. Alto was delicious, he says. The villagers scream in collective outrage and charge. Azuka says that this is the end. He calmly turns and leaps into the frigid sea. The water flows up and into his nostrils, welcoming him. The arms of his beloved wrapped around his waist and carrying him away. When they finally break the surface, the villagers are significant orange dots lining the cove. He smiles. His angel carries him further and further out until there is no visible land in any direction. The night sky and sea are endless. There are two beings in the midst of a vast and cosmic universe. His angel's hair writhes languidly in the moonlight. He produces a low note. Asuka tries to return the whistle, but his lips are trembling. The cold is overwhelming, but in his beloved's arms, he feels comforted. His angel seems to sense that something is off. He repeats the notes. Asuka smiles. It's okay, he says. He strokes his angel's cheek soothingly. This is all I ever wanted. Accepting his fate, he leans in to kiss his beloved. He expects heat and pain. Instead, he feels cool, rubbery flesh against his lips. Aizuku pulls away. He frowns. You never. He can no longer feel his legs. Emboldened, he presses his thumb against his siren's lips and slips a finger inside his mouth. He can feel the deadly points of his teeth. The siren does nothing. He raises his hands to either side of the siren's face and tries to pry his jaw open. His angel turns his head away. Why? He whispers. His angel gurgles. He produces a deep groan in the back of his throat. It sounds like an ancient door being forced open into a millennia of decay. I've you. The siren croaks. Azuka's heart stops. He throws his arms around his angel's neck and begins to sob. I'm sorry, darling, he whimpers. This world was not made for us. He raises his head and gazes terrifiedly into his eyes. We'll meet again somewhere. I'm sure of it. Isuka's vision is blurring. He knows that he doesn't have much time left. He raises his forearm and clumsily presses against his angel's mouth. Please, he whispers. I want you to. The pain that rips through Isuka is euphoric. He wails in ecstasy as his angel sinks his deadly teeth into his forearm and tears its shreds. Blood pools around them into the water. The sea sighs contentedly. Asuka looks at his beloved. His pupils are dilated, and his teeth and face are stained with blood. His blood. He's never loved him more than in that moment. An image of an underwater fortress formed in Asuka's mind. It's cracked, ruined, and long forgotten, but eternal nonetheless. His angel bears out on him, all claws and teeth and death. and Azuka cries because he's finally home. Well, that is crap. I never knew that this story could go on to this. I mean, this is the relationship between Bakugo and Deku because they're helping each other out. But oh my god, this is a it's a lot hard to think about this. But this is a I'm really hard now to think what was going on. Okay, I know, I get that because there's this siren right here wants to be rescued with all the mobs, and all of a sudden knowing that he killed Iota, but he doesn't kill Iota. He's not one of the sirens because he allied with the siren, as of say Bakugo. But oh my goodness, that is very horrific. And if I said a lot of the times, and if you imagine that in your head, yeah, you won't sleep. You would not sleep tonight. So whatever, you do not read anything during the night because this is a very horrific story. But there's something love in the end because it's between him and the siren. I get that a lot. I get that a lot. Words, but the story comes with it. But I don't even know what to say for this story because there's a lot of blood going on. So fishing up and killing one of the sirens. Like, what in the name of God is happening on that story? Alright, guess I am done right now. I just have to look at the comments right now and look shocked. I know I know there's something involved with a dark romance already, but I mean, in the end, Azuku died by his angel, by the siren. Okay, because we always had that relationship between him and Azuku and Bakugo. So again, got the concept now. So well, that's just the end of the story here, because I'm just not gonna keep reading this. This is very depressing, and there's blood involved. But my God, is this crazy? Okay, well that is it, and I'm just gonna clear myself. I'm just gonna watch some cool videos because I'm really depressed. So yeah, that is the end of this video. Now see you next time with another fanfiction. So alright, goodbye everyone.